Hi everyone, Diana Rankin here with your weekly messages. And gosh, what a week it has been. This will be the 23rd week of 2020, and this is for May 31st through June the 6th. May 31st through June the 6th. We're going to answer one of your questions today, and it's about prayer. And believe me, our world right now sure needs it. And of course, we will also get a message from Phillip from this book. And this is an oracle book. We just open to any page and we'll get our wisdom for the week. So that said, I want to get started pretty quickly here. And I want to read what Phillip said about prayer because I think it's really good and it's important. Importance, especially in today's world. But I do want to tell you the violence is not going to stop. For those of you who receive my newsletter, I think I'm going to also post this on Facebook later and possibly on Twitter. We'll see. But it's ways of what we can do. What can we do about the violence? Because it's only going to escalate between now and into next year. So, especially this summer, it's going to get really bad. So, take care of yourselves, be safe. I think what we're going to talk about today, what Phillip tells us about prayer is important, and I think that will help us deal with this violence as well. But again, if you're on my newsletter, you'll get that. If not, if we're Facebook friends, you'll be able to see it as well. I give you different things that we can do to help ease the violence. But what I want to say to you is prayer does work. It is important. So let me read that, and then I'm going to tell you a couple examples lately from my own life that are going to be rather interesting, I think, about prayer. So we'll get to that in a minute. But first, here's what Phillip says when we ask him the question from one of the readers. And by the way, just put your questions below. I do ask that you leave the questions general rather than very specific to your life. If you have questions about your specific life, my information is below. Please make an appointment and we'll set you up for a session. Or please give me a call and we'll set you up for a session. And you can get all the information about the cost of the sessions, etc., on my website. Right now, I think we all need to say a prayer for the U.S., for the world. It's not going to get easier, folks. We are going through a major, major revolutionary shift. And so it's going to get harder. So prayer is going to be important. And here's what Phillip says when we say, how exactly does prayer work is the question. Prayer is energy. In your world today, you would say a prayer is an intention spoken with the energy of love. I'm going to repeat that. Prayer is energy. In your world today, you would say a prayer is an intention spoken with the energy of love. The stronger the intention, the more the universe responds. The greater the emotion, the more the universe responds. The more often a prayer is said, the more the universe responds. This is why ancient prayers and chants carry a power not felt by a more modern prayer. The one who prays may be aware of the energy of the prayer. This too makes the prayer more powerful. When the words of prayer is said, God, the universe, spirit, by whatever name, responds to the request. The clearer the intention, the more profoundly accurate will be the response. If the emotion too is strong, so will be the response. Often, however, people claim their prayers are not answered or not enough, but take no responsibility as to why. Two aspects must be covered here. First, if the intention is unclear, or the emotional energy is lacking or incorrect, the request will not be answered as the person praying requests. The second reason people's prayers are not answered, let me go back to what Phillip said there. If the intention is unclear or the emotional energy is lacking or incorrect, the request will not be answered as the person praying requests. If we are praying for peace and we spend our lives in anger, we're not praying for peace, are we? How are we spending our lives, is I believe what Phillip is saying here. He goes on to say the second reason for people's prayers are not answered is because they may not recognize the answer. Let's say a person is asking, is asking for peace in their community or the world, but their life is full of fear and anger. I should have waited. They are unable to recognize the answer to their prayer is to find peace within their hearts so they can add peace to the world. Pray for peace, and you know what? We may not get peace if our own hearts are if our own lives are full of anger. As another example, let's say they are praying for a full, healthy recovery for a loved one who is ill, but the loved one dies. The one who prayed feels their prayer was not heard. This is not true. Healing takes many forms. It is not for one person to say what form another should take. Prayer is a way for humans to add comfort to their being. It is a way to soothe a troubled mind and calm an upset heart. Prayer is a way of looking at the stars at night and feeling you're not alone. I'm going to repeat those last few sentences because I think that is really what prayer is about. Prayer is a way for humans to add comfort to their being. It is a way to soothe a troubled mind and calm an upset heart. Prayer is a way of looking at the stars at night and feeling you are not alone. That, my friends, is the power of prayer. And I think it's important that we send prayers out into the world right now for peace and for love and for harmony, for recognition of all human beings. And we also need to take action. We need to recognize we're all one. And we need to take the actions that show that we believe we are all one, in whatever form we're able to do that. I want to welcome those who are joining us, and I will real quickly explain again. If you want a private reading, please contact me. The information is below. We're using our YouTube here for answering the questions, and I'm going to take my glasses off because I keep seeing that they're reflecting the light. We're using this particular forum for answering your general questions, and it's to help us get through this radical evolutionary shift that we're going through. And so, by the way, Judith, thank you. Namaste to you as well. I recognize your soul as you recognize mine, which is what we want to do with all peoples. Recognize we all bleed red. Our skins may be different colors. We may come from different cultures. We may have different upbringings, but we all bleed red. We all have hearts that hurt. Let's take care of one another, shall we? Let's get our message from Phillip here. Now think left page or right page, because remember there's only one message on the page. I'm hearing right page, but I always read the other page as well. The right page is our universal message for all of us. The left page is could be a private message for you if you got left page. So our right page, which is everyone's message, says, if the universe were limited, would it not have depleted itself long ago? Oh, I love that. If the universe were limited, would it not have depleted itself long ago? You know, the universe, God, is infinite. Spirit, God, universe, by whatever name, it's infinite. And we can ask for anything. It doesn't mean we're going to get it, because again, remember, our prayer takes intention, clear intention, and it takes energy. And it's energy that we must live in our lives. We can't just ask for peace without being peaceful. It's energy that we must accept the outcome. the outcome may not be what we think it should be. Not for us to decide, is it? On the left side, if you heard left page, this is a private message for you. When you abandon yourself to the genius of the universe, you become the genius. When you abandon yourself to the genius of the universe, you become the genius. You know, friends, when I speak with Philip, and many people who study with me also speak with Philip or hear from Philip, that's coming through me. When I do private readings, when those of you who contact me privately for a session, and some of those times it's about your life, sometimes you want to speak to a loved one in spirit world, I'm just being the channel to receive the information to help you. That's all any psychic can do. And hopefully just get out of our own way so we give you pure information that is helpful. I mentioned earlier that I wanted to give you a couple examples of my life recently where prayers were answered. And I use these examples as illustrations because I had to get out of my own way to let these prayers be answered. And they were. First of all, many of you, a few weeks ago, I asked for prayers for little Petey, one of her kitties, who was vomiting violently. Now, cats throw up. All of my cats occasionally throw up. But this was violent. Previously, she had had some blood in her urine. And the vet had trouble figuring out what it was. And I didn't want to go through extraordinary tests. So we just let it be because everything else seemed fine. She was eating, she was playing, everything was fine, except for some blood in the urine. And then she had this violent throwing up. And so I asked everyone for prayers and healing energy for her. Lo and behold, she stopped throwing up the next day. The blood in the urine stopped. We don't know what caused it, what stopped it. It comes back and goes, it came back again after a few weeks and has again stopped. So that was an answer to a prayer, wasn't it? And that healing energy and prayer came not just from me, but the healing energy came from all of you. Now, I had two incidents this week that one was an electronic and one was a car. My phone, the SIM cards stopped working, so I couldn't receive or make phone calls. If I were out and about, I couldn't use the internet because I wasn't at a Wi-Fi. I wasn't at home where the Wi-Fi was working. So I called the phone people, the iPhone people, the Apple people, and they said, well, yeah, here's what a new phone will cost. And I'm like, oh, getting a little worked up and a little scared. I called AT&T and very, very nice young man. He said, well, let's check the SIM card. And if that doesn't work, then you'll have to buy a new phone. But maybe the SIM card will work. So I went in, he replaced the SIM card for free. And guess what? My phone works fine. I did a lot of prayer around that, but I also did some worrying. And so to stop my worrying about what's it's going to cost, how, I've become so dependent upon my iPhone. What does this mean? And I had to let that go. Prayer helped me let that go. And as soon as I let it go, I got a good solution. Now I've got one that's even bigger. The PD's pretty big. The phone is big. This one is also big. It's not healing an animal, but it is healing a car. I was out running errands. I did have my mask on, by the way, and I do social distance, but I was out running errands. And one was to get the phone fixed. Another one was to go to the grocery store. And I had to go from one store to another, and I had about, 12 or 13 mile distance to drive. And I decided to take back roads just to stay off the freeway, and because I could wind through the river area and woods and it would be peaceful and beautiful. And I was in such a marvelous mood and just so totally content. And all of a sudden, the maintenance light came on in my car. Okay, no big thing. It's probably an oil change. Yeah, I looked at the odometer, and yeah, time for an oil change. And then, boom, like that, two other very serious lights came on. One was the four-wheel drive. The other one was check the engine. I got to my destination and I was still fairly calm and feeling good. I was talking in my car and I was also saying a prayer of healing for the car. Well, I called the service department, and for some reason, I got the service department in Virginia instead of in Ohio. And the guy was not helpful. He was really scary. And so when I finally realized, wait a minute, he's telling me don't turn the car on, turn it off, call the tow truck, etc., etc. Car could really dangerous, really scary. So then I got a hold of somebody in my local area, and he said, "Well, you could call the tow truck. If you want, that's probably wise." He said, "But unless you hear this noise, and this noise, you could probably drive it in here." Well, it was too late to drive it in that day, so I drove home, and then the next morning, I was going to have the car towed in. Getting a tow truck where I live is really, really tough. So what I ended up doing is driving the next 40 minutes to the dealership. And I the lights were on all the way down. I'm saying a prayer all the way down to the dealership. When the service rep turned the car back on, guess what? All the lights were off except for the maintenance oil change. A glitch? Yeah. They couldn't figure out why the glitch happened. And she just looked at me, and the service rep looked at me, and she said, "You were really talking nicely to this car on the way down here, weren't you?" My friends, never underestimate the power of prayer. And remember, as Phillip told us, prayer takes intention, a clear intention, and it takes energy. It takes loving energy. And we have to live our lives like that. Feel the energy of that prayer as you put it out into the world. And right now, let's feel the energy of the prayer of love, of peace. That doesn't mean we don't speak out. We certainly do. But we also pray to the universe, to spirit, to God, to whatever your spiritual beliefs are, to whatever your religion is. Say a prayer for peace, for the U.S., for the world, and for all of the families who have lost loved ones with this virus. In my country, in the U.S., it's 100,000 and growing. And honestly, I think that's well underreported. We're going to see a lot more deaths to this virus. And that's painful for all of us. Say a prayer for everyone who's touched by that, and for however we are losing our loved ones. Say a prayer for those who are in leadership roles, that they can handle the leadership roles, and say a prayer that the bullying stops, that the racial profiling stops. Say a prayer that instead of healing like this, that we've broken the wound open. It's wide open, and we're trying to get the pus out for the wound to heal properly. Say a prayer. The wound heals. Thank you, my friends. Thank you for being with me today. Thank you for accepting my prayers of love for you. Thank you for the prayers of love you send to me. Thank you for accepting my love. Thank you for the love you send to me and all of us here. We love you. And don't forget, if you haven't already, check out my monthly video for the month of June. I'm putting most of the predictions on that video for evolutionary shift, and keeping the weekly videos for information to answer your questions. So until we meet again, check out that monthly video, and I'll see you next week. I love you.